Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Washington's new national security strategy has landed uneasily in Europe, stirring concern over its implications and urgency over its demands. Now, with the United States signaling limits on NATO's enlargement, pressing Europe to assume far greater responsibility and anchoring much of its security posture in efforts to avoid escalation with Russia, the impact is being felt more acutely in the countries closer to the war. At the center of this strategic shift is Ukraine, whose survival depends on the credibility of Western guarantees. Joining us now to discuss what this means for NATO and for Ukraine's future is Piotr Kaszuwara, president of the UA Future Foundation. Good to have you back on TVP World. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Piotr, let's get first your opinion in terms of many of these words and lines in this document certainly have people worried, allies in Europe worried, Ukraine worried. How is it being received in Kiev?
We need to wait because definitely what we can see from the first words of this document that this document is written by the Donald Trump's ego, and this is very important moment, to read the rest of this document, because obviously, if the United States would be able to make most of those points real in our future, probably we will have a problem in Europe, and Ukraine could have a problem, and Russia as well could feel a bit more stable with attacking other countries, with destabilizing situation on the old continent. But we need to also remember that Donald Trump still is only one person. He has a team, he has his own people, but one person and with his team cannot change whole world. And the United States, with the leader as Donald Trump is, they cannot decide for the independent countries, for European Union. Donald Trump in this document is trying to build a future for Asia, for Middle East, for European Union, and also for Ukraine. We still have independent governments. We still have our own societies, our own history. We still have our own power, and there could be a lot of game changers. Not only Donald Trump is a game changer in the world. Obviously, what he wrote in this document, we could already hear before he started to be a president of the United States a year ago, because during his campaign he was repeating a lot of similar ideas for the United States and for the world. And it starts with the sentence saying that America first. And from through the whole this document, we could actually hear this sentence repeating over and over. So America first, with the economical reasons, military reasons, and what I'm trying to say, that from these documents we see that there is only an America. There is nothing else except the America and the American president in the world. But this is not true. There is still American society. And we also need to remember that American society can change the situation. American Congress can change the situation. Even Donald Trump doesn't want to help to Ukraine. A few days ago, we have seen that American congressmen from the right and from the left, let's call it Democrats and the Republicans, they decide to call Russia a terrorist state. And probably Donald Trump and his team doesn't really want to call it like that. So Ukraine is also mentioned because you asked at the beginning about what Ukraine is thinking about this document. Yes, Ukraine is also mentioned in this document. It's mentioned that United States with their partners need to do everything to keep Ukraine as the independent country, as the independent state. But it doesn't say
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
what kind of a state it should be.
Yeah, that line I was going to ask you because it does say in the document that Ukraine should be seen, and the United States agrees, it should be the survival as a viable state, but it doesn't really offer any concrete steps on what that means. So that was going to be also my question to you. How, let's say, reassuring is that, given that it is very vague?
Yes, we don't know what kind of state Donald Trump wants Ukraine to be in the future. But we can read the other things written in this document about Russia. And probably it tells us a bit more how Donald Trump is seeing Ukraine and how is he seeing Europe. This is very dangerous what Donald Trump administration did in last year, because he took out from the shadow the Russian president and Russian diplomacy, let's call it like that, and they came back to the world's market. Their words are heard in the other countries by the other people. We are again discussing what Russia wants, what are goals from Russia. You know, I always think about the Second World War and the way of fighting disinformation and the Nazi propaganda by Europe and the United States. During the Second World War, Europe and the United States and Great Britain decided to cut the cables, decided to cut the connection to not let the Nazis to spread their propaganda on the other side of the ocean. And Donald Trump, by writing this document and by all his moves that he's taking in last year, he's actually putting, this cable back together and letting Vladimir Putin to spread his propaganda and taking, as I said before, taking him out from the shadow. Russia, in this document, sounds to be like a new partner for the United States, and the United States are not allowing, Europe to argue with Russia. Donald Trump and his administration would love to see Europe and Russia cooperating, and they also see Ukraine cooperating in this, weird, a bit weird system.
Let me jump in on that, Piotr, because
So-
you mentioned Europe. I want to also go in that a little bit further. In that same document, it also says that, as you said, rightly so, there's no mention of adversary of Russia. In fact, it criticizes the Europeans for their, quote, unrealistic expectations of Ukraine. Let's talk about the future for a moment. We know that on Monday, we have Keir Starmer hosting Chancellor Merz of Germany. You'll have Zelensky also in London. This kind of gathering now following this again, I mean, with everything else that's going on, what do you think? Any particular outcomes? Will this strengthen again this cause of Ukraine with the Europeans? Or is it just going to be something going through the motions? What do you expect on Monday?
It's very hard to expect anything, as we already noticed in last year and in last week. in last weeks as well. We've been expecting the war to be over already like several times, but nothing happened. So now I see that we are getting closer and closer to another wrong turn or another dead end. I don't really see the opportunity, the possibility to end this war, because Russia doesn't want to end this war, and Ukraine cannot allow Russia to end the war on the conditions that Putin wants to end it up, because it will never stop the military actions in future. If Putin will take Donbas now, the global leaders and Ukraine are discussing the territory issues about Ukraine. What will happen with Donbas? What will happen with the frozen Russian money? What will happen with the sanctions, for example, on Russia? So let's try to imagine this scenario that Ukraine is losing Donbas. We are taking out the sanctions from Russia. So Russia can develop, Russia can use all the resources that are in Donbas to make more money and to rebuild their army and attack again, because this is Russia. We need to clearly understand that the Russian strategy and mentality is completely different than our values here in Europe and on the West. Russia is a country that lives permanently in the war. They cannot live in the democracy, in the multi-voice world. So whatever Europe will decide, whatever Ukraine will decide, whatever Donald Trump's team will say in next following days, still Putin has a cards. Let's use these words as well. Putin has a cards to end this war or to continue this war. And the situation at the front line right now shows us that there is no reason for Putin to end up this war, but there is a lot of reasons for Europe and the United States to still support Ukraine and don't let Putin to go forward and get closer to the European Union borders.
And I just want to ask you just very briefly at the end, with this document, what we just discussed, the wording in there, not listing Russia as an adversary, very much being critical of the Europeans, does this document embolden Vladimir Putin to do more, to act more aggressively? Peskov, the spokesperson of the Kremlin, has already praised some of this policy. Does this embolden Putin? Just close before we close.
You know, maybe it doesn't tell Putin that he can fight and he can attack anyone he wants, but it definitely shows Putin that he can do whatever he wants and nobody will take any action, because everyone is afraid of him. And that was probably a goal for Putin for a long time, to feel as a person that everyone is afraid of. And being an emperor, and these documents is showing Russia that they don't have to think about Europe, they don't have to think about anything else. They can do whatever they want and nobody will punish them for any action.
All right, so sobering words there that I'm sure we'll be digesting and analyzing over the next few days ahead. Look, thanks so much again. Really appreciate your insights. As always here, Piotr Kaszuwara, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching World Talks. We'll stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.